I start with you, El Senor. Geraldo, what do you make of this release of the report? Is this just transparency, or is this toxic?
Well, it may be both, Chris, because here you have a situation where this was the person designated by the President of the United States to be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, the Attorney General, the head of the Justice Department. It is, I think, instructive to the American people that this guy was going to be Attorney General, even though the people in charge of making him Attorney General, including the President of the United States, Donald Trump, knew everything in this report. I think that that is a shocking disclosure that speaks volumes. It is very important that people understand that Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General, even though President Trump knew that he had paid money to 17-year-olds and taken all the drugs and everything else. He was a whoremonger, this guy. And he was going to be Attorney General. I think, you know, I don't care about Matt Gaetz. I think that what he did to the Congress and what he did to the reputation of the Congress is appalling. He is a dark chapter that should go away. But the fact that he now is crying, oh my God, why are you exposing me thus? When he allowed the President of the United States to put his name nearly in nomination, certainly let everyone know that this was his pick to be not the head of the Department of Transportation or animal welfare or, old folks' homes. This was going to be the Attorney General, Chris. I think that that is very telling.
I get it. My beef, Brian, is I knew all this already. We all knew it. There's nothing in this report that's new. How does this help Democrats to release this?
Well, the reality is that this was a taxpayer-funded report, and now it gives credence to what a lot of people already knew. But look, we need this kind of evidence in this political environment because unless you have the evidence in front of you, then it's easy for both sides to just shout past each other and pretend that everybody else is lying if it doesn't fit your political narrative. And let's remember,
but they still can do that, Brian. They can say he was never charged with a crime. So what you're doing is a moral judgment. We think you're all dogs. Focus on larger things. Don't focus on who's the worst.
It's a hell of a lot more difficult to do that when this was a report that was compiled by a bipartisan committee. And by the way, we needed a vote from Republican members of Congress as well. So that takes that away. Now people can't say, oh, this is just another Democrat witch hunt from the evil communist Marxists on the left. This would not have been released had it not been for Republicans also coming forward and saying that this report deserves to be released.
Two of them. Look, here's what I'm saying. I don't have I have no dispute with you fellas about what's in the report. Okay? I haven't read anything in the 37 pages that does not comport with what I had heard many times over. What I'm saying, Geraldo, isn't it clear that the American people don't want Congress in the morality business? I'm not saying it's a felony or it's fine, but it's close to that as a standard. People don't care what Congress thinks about other people.
I have to say what I have to say, regardless of what the American people feel about what I have to say. What I have to say is that this was not only was he low down and dirty, but he destroyed the life, the career, the trajectory, the gentlemanliness of the Congress of the United States. He destroyed Kevin McCarthy's career. He removed him from the speakership of the House of Representatives. He was not merely an annoyance, he was an anarchist in the Congress. He was more than, just a gadfly. This was a toxic force. You talk about toxicity. This was a person who dragged down the very institution that I know you revere so profoundly. So I think that Matt Gaetz deserves to be in the trash heap of history, but never forget that he almost sleazed in to head up the Department of Justice. I think that that whole idea, if you just think about it for a minute, this was the guy that was going to be in charge of all those thousands of FBI agents, all the other, departments within that, with top security and all the rest of it. Imagine just the blackmail potential for Matt Gaetz, and now he's Attorney General.
Yeah.
Now, okay,
it was
Mr.
an absurd choice.
If you continue to pursue my guy, I'm going to release the fact that you and the 17-year-old were transported across state lines.
It was an absurd choice.
Yeah,
it was an absurd choice.
Let him go down. Let him go down. Don't waste your beautiful. All right, don't waste your beautiful compassion for this guy.
Listen, I'm not in the judgment business, pal. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying let's redeem Gaetz. Let's get him back out there as AG. What I'm saying is, look, ipsa dixit, as they used to say when we were in law school, right? The thing speaks for itself. Trump thought this was the guy who should be in charge of justice in the country. We get it. What I'm saying, Brian, is, isn't there an opportunity here to focus on what you know matters to the American people? This guy is what he looks like, which is what a lot of people think politicians are. They're wrong, but that's what they think. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.